Hello my scenery loving friends. This video is all about the trees. On a recent trip to California, my wife commented on how much she liked the pine trees along the highway. Then she followed up with, "You should make some for your layout." How could I refuse? I already had some plump pine trees, but she wanted to see the skinny variety. So I set out to make skinny trees to build a forest. This is a result of my skinny pine tree build. I planted about 50 new trees in this area on my layout. There is a base of blue foam underneath, so it was easy to poke a hole and plant a tree. I think it filled in nicely. What do you think? So follow along and I'll share my method. These are made with twine or jute rope, which can be found in the hobby store or knotted up in the garage. This mess I figured could be straightened out by soaking in some water and then stretching it out to dry. It only took about a day to dry. Sure enough, it came out straight. I then cut the rope into various lengths, somewhere between 1 inch and 2.5 inches long. Also at the hobby store, in the jewelry section, I found this 24 gauge wire, which turned out to be a great thickness for my end scale project. More about this cradle at the end of the video, but it's about 10 inches side to side. So I cut a piece of wire about 22 inches long. I secured one of the wires to the outside screw heads and then around the hook. Next, I applied a little tacky glue onto the one wire. This will help hold the rope fibers in place. This next step is where your own preferences come into play. Go ahead and apply the fibers onto the wire. You can see here why I added a shelf to my cradle. From my stack of cut fibers, I lay them out onto the single wire. A thick pile will make a thick tree. Not so much will make a skinny tree. Because of my scale and size of trees, I can make 2 trees at one time. I just leave a gap between the right side and the left side on the cradle. Then I pull the second wire over the top and fasten it around the screw heads. Now it's time for the heavy machinery. Drop the table and activate the twister. As you start out, some of the fibers might need to be adjusted. I try to make sure that they are centered on the wire. It will make a better shaped tree by doing so. As it is twisting, you will see the wire becoming tighter and tighter. The goal is not to break the wires by being too tight, but just by tightening up so they hold the fibers. Disengage the motor or drill, remove from the hook and screw heads. And for my own use, I use a pair of older scissors or wire cutters to separate the two trees. Now comes the tedious but creative part. Trim off the wire and then work on shaping the trees. Even after trimming around the tree once or twice, stray branches show up again and again. It is up to you how much trimming you do. You are the tree master. This part can take a little bit of time, but again, it's up to your discretion on how you want your trees to look. And remember, I wanted skinny pine trees. Here I have a crop of skinny trees that badly need some color. Rattle can or airbrush is your choice for coloring. I'm opting for the quick way today, and I'm going to use two different colors. I also try not to saturate the trees with just one color. A light spray of the lighter colors on first. You'll notice there's also some spots where the brown still shows through, but I don't consider it a problem. Real life trees have a little brown on them anyway. Mother Nature has trees that are not always perfect. I just keep rotating it until all the spots seem to be covered. I'm outdoors today, and the painting is going quite well. Light sprays on all sides till the brown is mostly covered. Well, at least 95% covered. And then I put on a darker color. This goes over the first. And again, my plan is for a light spray of this more lively color, this darker hunter green. I'm also going to use the light color for a top spray to bring out and create some highlights. Wanted to show these off for a moment, a little bit close up instead of the full scene view. But you can see here, and you saw earlier, there were different materials. This is the yarn type rope. It's very soft looking and fuller, but it also depends on how much you use on the wire as well. This one here was made from the stiffer rope, the rope that was washed. You can see that they're a lot straighter and not as full, but I meant it to be that way. I didn't want it to be a full tree. Here's one. You can see compared to that one, it's a little bit smaller, a little bit shorter branches. So just a smaller, younger tree. This one here is just an ugly tree. Now I could trim it up and probably take some of this off, and you can even see in there where there was no paint done. But that just is the sign of a diseased tree out in the forest. So even though this one's ugly and not as perfect as some of these others might be, it's still going to be a tree in the background on my layout. I like it. Even though he's not very cute, not very handsome, I still like it. He's a good background tree. So again, it just depends on the fiber that you use, whether it's the yarn type or the stiff bristle rope type, and how much you put on the wire. This one had a lot more fibers on the wire. This one was kind of thin, wanted to make it thinner, and so that more daylight could be seen through it. That's what my wife liked about it so much. All right, I'm going to put this together. Got my 7-ply plywood. Cut it out length I want it. These notches here will house the ends. This is the front end, or the head end with the screw, and where the drill will be. Now this is not glued into place, so they're a little wobbly right now. This is the back end that has a slot for the wires to come in. Wrap around the screws that'll secure them while you're twisting it. So this one goes here. I had it backwards. Goes here. Now this is something that that I've added to it, is a little table. So the little table goes in here. And I'll show you that in a moment. Here's the screw. Here's the hook that's screwed into this black piece of hard plastic. It goes in this hole here so that I can hook on with the drill right here. So as I'm getting ready to make one, I can use this table to prop it up, run my wires across here, put the fibers in here, and then when I'm ready to tighten it up, just drop that down. All my fibers will rest right here. I'll get this glued up, and then we can make some trees.